Hello. Are you a fan of croissants? I am, but I've never made them before. Looking up a recipe, I found a delicious looking recipe with great picture instructions. Findcooking.com, uploaded by someone named Jeffrey Hamelman. It's a few basic steps. It takes part over 3 days. You do a little bit each day, and then you end up with delicious croissants. Make them with me. The only equipment you'll really need for this recipe is a stand mixer and a dough hook. Everything else is pretty basic. You need 4 cups of flour, 1, 2, 3, and 4. You need 5 ounces of cold water, which is half a cup and 2 tablespoons. You need 5 ounces of cold whole milk, again, half a cup and 2 tablespoons. You need 1/4 cup of sugar and 2 tablespoons of sugar. You need 3 tablespoons of softened butter. There's 1 tablespoon. There's 2 more for a total of 3. Now you need a tablespoon of yeast, which is quite a bit. There's half a tablespoon. There's a full tablespoon. Then you need a little under half a teaspoon of yeast on top of that. Then you need 2 1/4 teaspoons of salt. There's 1 teaspoon, 2 teaspoons, and 1/4 teaspoon. Now we need to mix all of these with our dough hook on low for 3 minutes. Now mix it on medium for 3 minutes. Alright, it's kneaded on medium for 3 minutes. Now take a 10-inch pie pan that has been lightly floured and transfer your dough to it. Your dough should be a little sticky, but not too crazy. It should be relatively easy to pick off surfaces. Oops. But the flour will prevent it from sticking to this pie pan. Okay. Now, lightly flour the top of the dough and wrap the container with plastic. Now get the dough into your fridge and let it rest overnight. It is now the next day, and you're going to need to set out some wax paper. You need about maybe a 10-inch square of it. Now you need 10 ounces of butter, cold butter, which is 20 tablespoons. Then we're going to cut it into 1/2-inch strips, which is pretty much cutting each stick in half, lengthwise. And the point of this is we're going to make a 5 to 6-inch square. And you're going to need a tape measure or some sort of ruler, because we're going for a 5 to 6-inch square. So it's about good in this length, but we need more up here. That's pretty good to me, I'd say. Now put another layer of wax paper on top, and then using a rolling pin, lightly pound the butter, and it's going to start coming together. Pound it evenly. Lightly at first, working harder as you go. Now at this point you can peel one of your layers off, your layers of wax paper. And I'm gonna mark mine at 7.5 and 7.5. Just because you're kind of going for a uniform square here. Put those evenly on top. And then lightly pound again. Just lightly this time, because we're at the size we want. Swap your butter out for your dough. I'm gonna flour this surface ever so lightly. Now I'm gonna put my dough onto it and roll it out into a 10.5-inch square. And keep rolling till you got 10.5 inches in both directions. Get your butter out, and at this point it should be cold but pliable. So that means you should be able to move it lightly. Now place the butter on your dough so that the corners point to the edges of the dough. And now you start by taking one corner of the dough and pulling it towards you, and so that it hits the center of the dough. And again, repeat that with your other corners. When they meet in the center, really press them down. Okay? Just make sure you flour your surface. Mine was a little sticky, but it wasn't awful. Now we will want to lightly flour the top and the bottom of the dough. And again, I'm flouring my surface slightly too. Now firmly press on the dough to elongate it. Don't roll yet. Kind of push it. Focus on one direction. So really try to increase it lengthwise. So begin rolling out your dough until it's 2 feet in length. And keep the ends as square as possible. If they begin to lose a lot of their squareness, square them up with your hands. Now that the dough is 24 inches long, take part of the flap, and this is where I'm wishing I had done a little more flour. Roll it back so that 1/3 of the dough on this side is exposed. Then take that flap and fold it over the main flap. Put this folded up dough into a baking sheet. Cover with plastic wrap, and I'm using the same I used last night just to be efficient with my plastic wrap. And freeze it for 20 minutes. Don't refrigerate, freeze it. 20 minutes. After 20 minutes, I would lightly flour your surface again. I'm gonna go a little more than last time, just because it did stick a little last time. Take off your plastic wrap and set it down. Now we're gonna roll towards our open ends, the sides that were open that have been folded over. And I'm even gonna lightly flour the top. So first just kind of press it. We're going for 8 inches wide again, but it's probably pretty close already. Keep it as square as you can and just slowly begin rolling. Again, we're going for 8 by 24. All right, I'd say that's at 24 inches. And can you guess what we do now? That's right. Fold it 1/3 of the way back, 1/3 of the way over. Again, cover with plastic wrap. Seal it nice and tight. And that's right. Freeze it for another 20 minutes. I'm keeping mine kind of loose now, but it will be tight later. All right, again, it's been 20 minutes. It was a little more for me, so I had to let mine thaw. And again, roll it towards the open ends. and just slowly work it out. Make sure you keep it floured. Again, put it in a baking pan. Now this time, do a more thorough job of covering it with your plastic wrap. Cover it tightly. Now put this into your fridge overnight, and tomorrow we'll finish it. Again, I would even lightly flour the surface, just because we're going to roll it out. But the refrigeration helps it not be as sticky. Unwrap your dough. And put it down. And at first, just kind of press on it to begin to get it stretching lengthwise. And again, we're not going for width here. And again, roll towards the open ends that you folded. This time though, we're going for 44 inches. So it's going to be a really long and narrow strip. And as you get closer to 44 inches, if it begins to spring back, fold it up and refrigerate it for 10 minutes. Then work it again. But just continue this process. One bit of advice I will say is work quick and make sure your house temperature isn't too warm. And really make sure everything's floured. Mine's getting sticky and a little hard to work with, so I had to refrigerate it, dust everything again, and even kind of try to chill the counter a little bit. Point is, you want to get to 40 inches. I'm at a little less, which is okay. Cut the ends straight. Now what you have to do is start in one corner and then mark every 5 inches on the edge. So make sure you have a surface you can cut on. Then, starting in the other corner, go 2.5 inches up, mark that, and then go 5 inches from there. Does that make sense? Because you were going 5 inches before, now we're going 2.5 in, then 5. That will put us perfectly between all the other marks. And it's good if you have a wooden yardstick too. That's typically more of a baker's tool. But you'll notice now these lines are equally between the others. Now what you need to do, start in the top corner, and again, this is why you want pretty straight lines, and then cut to the bottom first mark. And then it recommends you can use a pizza cutter for this, which would be nice. Then move to the next set of marks and cut, kind of like so. And at first you're going to have these kind of big, awkward rectangles. Now pretty much we're just going to cut the opposite way. So one top corner to the other. And just think of it as cutting rectangles. I'm not even going to use a ruler anymore. Mine are so sloppy anyway. But they're going to taste really good. Now to help the rolling procedure, you'll want to cut a little notch out of the short side of each triangle. Apparently that helps it keep its shape a little bit. Then just kind of begin to roll, putting it together and kind of pushing your hands outward as you go. This will kind of help it grow. You know, mine are so long because mine have heated up so much. I think it's a little too warm in this apartment. But you know what? That still looks like a croissant to me. Sure, it's kind of an ugly one, but hey, it's going to taste great. So just continue that process with all your triangles you've cut. Also, for each one, you're going to want to kind of bring the ends together like so and kind of make them meet in the center. It'll come apart as they proof, but it will help them have that curve that you associate with croissants. As you begin to roll your croissants, you're going to want to put them on parchment paper on a baking sheet. So you're going to need 2 baking sheets. Put 7 croissants on one and 8 on the other. In a small bowl, you're going to need to whisk together 1 egg and a teaspoon of water. Whisk them until nice and smooth. Now brush the egg and water mixture onto your formed croissants. And make sure you get it onto all of them. And your leftover egg and water mixture, put in the fridge because we're going to use it later. Now we need to let these proof for an hour and a half to 2 hours. Now we need to store them in an area between 75 and 80 degrees where they won't get a lot of wind or even a slight breeze. So I'm actually just going to put mine in the oven because I think that's a good spot for them. Of course, I'm leaving my oven off, but it's about 75 in this apartment and there's no breeze inside the oven. So it's the perfect place for them to proof. Alright, I can tell these croissants have proofed enough because they've nearly doubled in size. When you look at the edges, you can really see the layers of dough and butter. And they shake a little. When you tap the pan, you can see them wiggle a little bit. That's exactly what you're looking for. Make sure that your oven racks are positioned so that one is in the top third of your oven and one is in the bottom third of your oven. Preheat your oven to 425 degrees. Take that egg wash you had earlier and again brush your croissants. That egg and water mixture you had, we're using it again. Alright, now that the oven is preheated, get your croissants in. One in the top rack and one in the bottom rack. And we're going to rotate 10 minutes through. So we're going to switch the racks 10 minutes through. Alright, it's been 10 minutes, a little less. If at any point you think your croissants are browning too quickly, you can turn the temperature down by about 10 degrees. So mine on top may be a little too browned. But they're not bad. So don't be scared to turn the temperature down a little bit or even put them in for less. So now I'm switching them and it says to do them just for 8 to 10 minutes now. And now, of course, the best part. Let's try one of these croissants. Oh yeah. That's probably the most fresh croissant I've ever tasted. Nice and crisp on the outside, soft and flaky on the inside. It's got a nice bread taste, a great buttery taste. That's a good croissant. If you like this video, please subscribe. Although it took 3 days to make these croissants, it was pretty basic steps, pretty basic ingredients. If you follow along, and even if you mess up a little bit like I did with rolling it out, they still turn out delicious. You can do it no matter how much of a beginner you are, and you'll be proud of yourself. Thanks for watching.